Listen guys, I have to be honest today. Somebody who looked like Pinocchio came to me and said, whatever I do, I am not allowed to say it. I cannot say it. And whatever I do, I really can't say the thing. But now when it comes to Drake, OVO, get your tears ready because we are not stopping exposing the truth. And well, with what we have just found out, well, the new coping mechanism has dropped for Drake, OVO, and anybody who considers themselves to not have any decency or respect. Now, listen, we're going to waste no time and we are going to get right into this. So, if you are ready to see how pathetic what Drake's move has now been, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I kid you not, as this is a moment and narrative that I had to read and then read again and then really see the interactions and just discourse that OVO was having about this to believe that this garbage was a real thing that was going across people's minds. Listen, I know last time around I really could not just take how baffling it was to see academics and Maul just go out sad the way they have, but it really just may fly off the handle here. I am going to let everybody know that because right now there is a new narrative coming from the Drake camp, and as Drake gets all of his opinions and ideas from social media and from what the losers around him are perpetuating and saying, because well, if we remember what his lawsuit was based on, half of it was off conspiracies that Joe Budden said that random people on academic streams were saying, and well, overall a lot of the narratives were literally just lifted up from the lame OVO stans, who have had the awful job of well defending Drake ever since the beef. Well, what this new narrative that they are all believing and is going to get to the top of the Drake groupthink is this very idea and notion which somehow Drake has at least pretended to believe that Drake actually doesn't believe that Kendrick Lamar writes his own rap lyrics, which yes, this is serious and we are going to break it down, which I think the best way to just kind of grapple with the absolute nonsense that yes we have all heard now is just to put it like this: for Drake and all of his stands, as they have now been laughed out of hip-hop, laughed out of the music industry, and now out of the boardrooms and courtrooms. What we are seeing right now, just like when Drake lost the actual beef and they decided to put their tinfoil hats on and make whatever ridiculous conspiracies that were trying to say that this whole beef was a setup and that Drake never had a chance and that everything was rigged against him because he was too powerful and whatever other garbage they were trying to spew. Well, now seemingly with the lawsuit coming down and Drake having no chance to do anything here despite whatever losers like Maul are trying to say, well, what we are seeing is the legion of lame dig through their chest of lies and try to find the worst one that will both make them falsely rationalize with this entire reality and try to just believe whatever ridiculous narrative that's going to make them feel better about everything. And well, in addition to that, try to counter just the loss of the lawsuit with another idea that is going to just make everybody who's on the right side of hip-hop's lives more annoying. And so with all of that, what is coming from high-ranking members in OVO and Drake has seemingly echoed these same sentiments, and it's kind of coming full circle all here is this idea that these people don't believe that Kendrick Lamar writes his own lyrics, and let's just break that down further, specifically that Kendrick Lamar did not write Not Like Us. And this was some song that was made in the boardroom of UNNG and that Lucian delivered to Kendrick directly. And that again, it was made as this predetermined boardroom assembled thing to just make sure that Drake never got his $8 zillion that the industry owed him. And you know that huge deal that he would get as a reward for making the absolute abominations of records like For All the Dogs and CLB and Honestly Nevermind, and I guess songs like 2C Sly. And you know, in this totally complete and rational thought out thing, they are saying that Kendrick Lamar didn't write his lyrics, and this is now why Drake lost the lawsuit, because when it came to proving defamation from the suit and Kendrick's words specifically, what they are trying to say is that Kendrick Lamar and his recording, which was put out by UMG, cannot be found liable for anything. And this is because the song wasn't written by him or seemingly anybody within the label. And what they are trying to say to get their gotcha moment about this. I may lose it when we look at this, but let's just hang on for a second. These random posts, which were at the bottom and the most random crevices of conversations and corners all over social media, and you know, because they said the 69 God thing, or they called him the OV. We can't really say that here, but you know what I'm saying. And even the certified lover boy, and again, I can't say that here, but you know exactly what I am talking about. Well, with all of this, what they are trying to say is now that because Kendrick Lamar didn't write the song, and I guess they think that the boardrooms and the courtrooms also understand this, well, the entire thing just couldn't work because the words didn't actually come from Kendrick. And this is why Drake lost the lawsuit and not for any other reason, which wow. If you're somehow a Drake stan watching this, I just got to say get ready because wow, we've done it. We have seen it all. And this is the most blasphemous thing that I have ever even tried to come to terms with in just any manner. And of course, you've been here on this journey. You know how much that is saying, because to truly try to sit us, look us straight in the face and tell us now that you don't believe that Kendrick Lamar wrote the song, and the labels and the courtrooms also have recognized this. And well, now this is why the entire thing was thrown out, and this is why the thing was lost, which again is trying to blame and really anchor the entire statement and courtroom case on just a random technicality which there is no basis for. What happened to the art form I loved? Hip-hop used to be the genre that made people think better, stronger, and smarter. And now because of the Drake era and because we have people like Drake and academics running things, well, on one side of the genre, people can't even understand why Ray Charles has a writing credit on Not Like Us. And you know, these people are so delusional that they think, and when they try to push the narrative that Not Like Us was written by other people, and they try to say that Kendrick has had all of these writers because, well, there's just more people featured within the actual composition and lyrics part of the credits for the song than Drake's Family Matters. Well, the reason for that is because while Drake hides his writers and doesn't credit them, and that's one of the reasons why he's been criticized to the level that he's been at, Kendrick Lamar is interpolating and sampling from other artists, and that's why they are receiving credit here. It's not because they are writing the raps, which genuinely on that note, we did try to see high-ranking members in OVO try to have a gotcha moment. Well, just about Ray Charles having a writing credit on this song. Like Ray Charles actually wrote the song, which if you don't understand why that's ridiculous, I don't know what to tell you. Just look him up. But seriously, what all of this comes down to when we see the Drake stans try to throw things out like this and try to perpetuate this idea that Not Like Us wasn't written by Kendrick Lamar, worked on by a couple of other producers and engineers. Well, it both comes down to the idea that Drake fans don't understand the music business and the industry and how it works. And then OVO and Drake purposefully pretend that they don't to try and rile up these fans more and to try and get any sort of a win on their side no matter how false it actually is. And you know, when it comes to Drake's strategy and for the OVO fans, they try to say that he is the most calculated artist ever, which, like, come on, don't even fool yourself. Look at every single thing he has done. Why are you even trying to act like he's in this conversation? Well, honestly, thinking about that, I will give Drake credit for one, and I mean one thing and one thing only, which is that now as we have reached this point in the delusion cycle where we are trying to genuinely see a narrative get pushed that Kendrick didn't write Not Like Us, and this is why the case was thrown out, because it just couldn't hold up without the writer actually knowing what the material he was putting out was, and then I guess what the label was or something. I don't really even know how to try and make sense of this in full. Well, with all of that, I guess when it comes to trying to say that Kendrick is this fake writer and he doesn't write his own lyrics, this is a disc that Drake put out on Family Matters, I guess, to try and come back full circle on the losing plans. Losing plans, losing plans, losing plans, losing plans, losing plans, losing plan. And well, we are seeing that losing plan get put out right here. And of course, I'm alluding to that whole bar where Drake said that Kendrick stuff isn't working unless Baby Keem puts his pen to it, which I mean, of course, we know Baby Keem was playing Minecraft while Kendrick was dropping classics. But still, for Drake and OVO, as we are a community and are a fan base that avoids all logic at all costs, because this is the only way we can consider the OVO cupcake Karen to be the boss, this is what you got to do. And I don't know, I guess it could be fun to live in fantasy world. But really, for the rest of us who are just seeing this and trying to see how your fanfictions are now interacting with reality and trying to change the context of just everything as we know it, I mean, when are you going to stop and when are you going to give it up? Because honestly, just really at this point, you're trying to sit here and tell us that Kendrick Lamar doesn't write his own lyrics, and you know that Drake is going to continue to perpetuate this narrative and do whatever needs to be done. Well, to keep the OVO guys by his side and to just keep this whole thing and this whole run of L's but really just chaos from his perspective going, because it's the only thing that's really giving him any sort of a presence right now, because the music is not well. You know, soon we are going to probably have people that I guess we're going to call Kendrick Lamar deniers and that really don't believe that he writes his lyrics and that think that overall this guy who has gotten the respect from all of his peers and every single person in the industry pretty much is just the biggest fraud possible. And you know, when you stand on his side next to Smiley and academics and then you look at Kendrick Lamar, Nas, Jay-Z, Pusha T. Pharrell, Tyler the Creator, Busta Rhymes, Mobb Deep, and whoever else is on the right side of things and say that they're all the crazy ones. And you know us on Team Drake, we are in the right. And then you look over and see Aiden Ross, Party Next Door, Nicki Minaj, XQC, and whoever else. I mean, as one side's got the guys who made Illmatic and The Blueprint and the other has got the guy who did this, I'm genuinely asking and I'm genuinely looking for answers. When are the games going to stop? And when are we going to realize that there is nothing? It's over. There's no more round twos. There is only one chance to win the championship, and there's only one chance to not just embarrass and humiliate your ego and legacy in a way like we have never seen somebody humiliate their ego and legacy before. And so, you know, with this narrative that they are trying to get across, which is really trying to tell us all that the guy who won a Pulitzer Prize for an album, the one who has broken so many different records and one of the only people who has managed to stay relevant and consistent in the rap game and in the music industry while staying authentic and being a top-tier writer, is not actually the one writing things, and that he is this big fraud, and that again, Not Like Us was a track that Kendrick Lamar and I guess UMG can't take responsibility for. I mean, for the guys who decided to drag out the loss of the biggest rape of all time with a lawsuit and who have decided to play so many other games in the process. Well, now I know that a lot of them have been catastrophic losses for you, and they have only humiliated the Drake name even more. Really trying to say that Kendrick Lamar is the guy who uses ghostwriters now? Is this the best that you got? Because honestly, now to try and just act like you know better than the courts and know better than the credits and inner makings of the song, and to try and just spin this narrative, which I guess ultimately is trying to discredit Kendrick Lamar and his credibility as an MC, well, just to try and get a gotcha moment about why this lawsuit has ended based on what they're saying, which is a technicality. This is really some all-time sad and desperate stuff. And really, for somebody as petty and pathetic as Drake, I have to say, in terms of your ridiculous narratives that you were trying to push, I would expect better from you, which I know may sound ridiculous, but really again just think about what is being put out here and what the next narrative that they are about to try and run with really is going to be. Which is just telling us that the guy who wraps circles around every single rapper he has pretty much ever worked with is just a fraud, and he's not actually writing it. And you know, this isn't like it's coming from a Pusha T or a Jay-Z or somebody who actually has a credible perspective and position as a lyricist, but it's coming from the actual guy who we know uses writers, who has been caught for using ghostwriters, and who has been exposed and embarrassed time and time again for not writing some of their most important songs. And so really with this, you know, Cupcake, I think you just got to look in the mirror and not just realize that you're trying to pin every single thing onto Kendrick Lamar that actually applies to you, but ultimately you just got to realize that at this point going to these limits are really only going to leave you in a place where you are going to get laughed out of every single room forever, and really from any single person who is in anything that's even half respected in terms of any industry and rap and beyond. If you go down as the guy who is screaming and whining over Kendrick Lamar because you don't think that he actually wrote his diss tracks, you are going to humiliate yourself to a place where just nobody is ever going to respect you in any capacity. And you are never going to wipe away those stains, because ultimately the tale and tragedy of Drake, because really this is a tragedy in a lot of ways, is just going to be so colossal and catastrophic that nobody is even going to want to remember the guy who cried because he could not fathom that he actually lost for once. And so really with Drake and Obio, I think somebody's just got to really go on, turn the lights on and tell them that they don't got to go home, but they definitely can't stay in Fantasyland, because if they really just keep going down this way, well, we are just seeing one of the most insane groups of anything in hip-hop history really just form all at once. And honestly, while at one point it looks like Drake was gonna have to accept that L and then everything was gonna just kind of move back to a way where things were at least in balance, or Drake kind of took that L and it was on his resume. But, you know, maybe he didn't just drag things out and really sever himself to the point that we have seen now really with where we are at. What I think the clear play is, and what everybody should understand, is that no longer is OVO and anything remotely close and related to it affiliated with hip-hop on any level. Well, they are just grifters and cosplayers who are sitting within this thing trying to use the benefits of it, but don't actually respect a single thing about the game. And even worse, they are just going to continue to plan weirder and weirder things, which again, for the rest of us, well, we are all going to see this and say, hey, this is pretty weird and this is pretty bad. And we're just going to continue to laugh at everything they do. Well, you know, as there are a lot of people who this still does appeal to, and a lot of people are just sharing in the resentment that Drake has for so many reasons, but they are all bad ones at that. Still, you do wonder what the final form of this group is really going to look like and what that could really mean for the entire industry and specifically hip-hop, which again, just like in anything and just like with any sort of group, no matter how wrong that they are and no matter how much we see that, as long as they believe that they are right and they just continue to get more loud and loud about the things that they disdain, even though they have no real reason or grounds to, and it's all just because they have really sucked themselves into one of the worst things that they could ever be a part of, you just still don't know where all that's going to go. But really, as we are now at the point where with how delusional OVO is getting and with the entire verdict of this lawsuit so far, we are really seeing more than ever this whole recreation of what I am going to say is this moment where the Drake stans are yelling that rap was stolen from them and Drake was sabotaged and he could do no wrong. And well, now they're trying to have this big effort to just pull down everything with them and just take down their opponents with not anything that's standing on merit, but just with sheer and utter delusion. Well, overall, what I will say is that if Drake does ever look in the mirror and he does decide to do some reflection, I'm sure he's going to look a lot more like that one guy who we said that he used to try to study to be like, and who he really does have a lot of parallels to. And really, he's just never been close to that type of person. But really, with all that said, just remember that anytime Drake and U try to say anything and put anything across in the rap world, well, listen, while you could laugh at them for really trying to push across that Kendrick Lamar doesn't write his own rap lyrics, what honestly I think is even worse than this and what shows how really incompetent the Drake fans are is really just reminding them that within this entire conspiracy that they keep trying to push about what the industry and Kendrick did, they will sit here and tell you that if you look on the credits of Not Like Us and see the people that helped conspire and put together this song that the industry wanted to get across, however they are saying it was made, well, they genuinely believe that Ray Charles sat in the studio with Kendrick Lamar and helped him figure out how to make this boardroom-mandated track to end Drake's career. And so, yeah, that's all I got today. I mean, the Drake stans are just making things weirder than ever. And I honestly can't believe that this is the point we have reached in this entire thing where they have never looked more delusional than ever, because to genuinely say this and to genuinely push this across. And you know, I am sure that we are going to see Drake stand down on this statement if he can't figure out anything else to try and push. We are just headed to a weird place and I really don't know where things are going to go next. But now, if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a ton. And if you want to see how right before this, Drake's crash out just got all the more worse and before hitting this point of delusion. Well, between Cupcake Academics and Olmal, they have never looked worse and they have never created an effort to reach us to the point of delusion that we have just discussed. And this is going to have major implications really on the music industry and hip-hop for quite a while. Check out the suggested video.